Fast and Furious has shaped a lot of our childhood, especially if you were a kid growing up during the greatness era, which in my opinion was the first 4 movies, as things just got away from racing cars to saving the world with tanks and planes after that. But even though they changed the script on us and we see less and less street racing, one thing that they didn't change, which I appreciate, is the awesome cars that they kept building for these movies, such as this mid-engine Hellcat swap 1968 Dodge Charger, which we will talk about later on in this video. And it's definitely safe to say that Dominic Toretto, played by actor Vin Diesel, has definitely had some sick American muscle cars, and today we will be discussing them in order, starting with the first Fast and the Furious movie ever produced, featuring perhaps one of the most famous Dodge Chargers in the world, being this 1970 Dodge Charger RT that we all remember for doing that awesome wheelie while racing Brian in the final scene. And even though the wheelie itself was fake, what isn't fake about this car is the power, producing an astonishing 900 horsepower and capable of doing a quarter mile in 9 seconds flat, which for some reference is just 0.04 seconds slower than the Demon 170, which is the fastest production muscle car ever produced. The second movie, called Too Fast, Too Furious, did not include Dominic Toretto, as Vin Diesel, the actor, was doing the shoot for Chronicles of Riddick at the same time. Tokyo Drift, which was the third movie released, also did not include Dom until the closing scenes, where it shows him and Sean lining up for a race, with Dom being in this 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner named Hammer. Now the fourth movie, which is ironically just called The Fast and the Furious, finally saw its normal cast return to the big screens, and this movie had Dom featured in multiple cars, such as the same 1970 Dodge Charger from the first movie, and other cars such as this 1987 Buick Grand National, and this beautiful 1970 Chevy Chevelle that we saw him escaping Mexico in. The fifth movie, called Fast 5, is really where starts going south, and the franchise started turning to more of a action movie with the whole heist and the Rio scenes. But if you pay close enough attention to that same scene, then you see Dom and Brian in these 2 Dodge Charger SRT8s completely defying all laws of physics while pulling a 20,000 pound safe going 100 miles an hour with cars with a max towing capacity of just 1,000 pounds each. And at the end of this movie, we also saw Dom and Brian racing, with Dom being in this Dodge Challenger SRT8 stick shift as well. The sixth movie starts off with the same race between Dom and Brian, but this movie also features Dom in one of my personal favorite cars from this franchise, which is none other than this beautiful 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona in a maroon finish that we see Dom racing Letty in. The seventh movie is the most sentimental in my opinion because of the passing of Paul Walker in real life, and this movie features some decent muscle cars for Dom, such as this 1970 Plymouth Barracuda that we see him and Letty going to the race wars in the beginning of the movie. But perhaps the best car in this movie is the one featured in the tribute to Paul Walker, which is called Maximus, and this beast is a 1968 Dodge Charger that produces well over 2,000 horsepower and can do the quarter mile in less than 9 seconds, beating out even the fastest factory muscle car of all time. The eighth movie in this franchise, also known as The Fate of the Furious, features Dominic Toretto in a good amount of muscle cars actually, starting with this 1950 Chevrolet Fleetline that we saw him race Fernando in the beginning of the movie, and I don't know if I really count this car though because it didn't seem to make it past this race in one piece. And as if that wasn't bad enough, immediately after blowing up that car, Dom proceeds to gift his 1961 Chevy Impala Sport Coupe to his cousin. But later on in the same movie, we see him and the crew use these 2018 Dodge Demons to recover this EMP device during their mission in Berlin. And not long after that scene, Dom is spotted in this 1971 Plymouth GTX driving around New York City tracking down information. But you best believe I saved the best for last for this movie, because towards the end of this movie, we see Dom in this 1968 Dodge Charger labeled Ice that was custom made for this movie, if you couldn't tell by just looking at it. But funny enough, this car doesn't have a Hellcat engine or even a Mopar engine for that matter, and instead this car is powered by a LS3 GM V8 engine producing 500 horsepower. Fast and Furious 9 holds the best cars we've discussed so far for Dom Toretto in my opinion, and it's not just because of this Dodge Charger red eye wide body we see Dom driving in, which by the way, I don't know if you noticed this little information or not like I did, but this car is actually equipped with a manual transmission, which to clarify, no red eye Charger or Challenger comes with a manual transmission from the factory, and to make it even a cooler car, no Dodge Charger comes equipped with a manual transmission no matter what the trim is, meaning that most likely they swapped out a Challenger Hellcat stick shift transmission and put it into this red eye wide body's engine. And finally, we're at the final movie for this franchise, at least at the time of this recording, because you never know with Fast and the Furious, they might come out with 20 more movies. But the Fast and the Furious 10 movie sees Dominic Toretto going back to his roots and driving the 1970 Dodge Charger RT from the original movie. And we also see Dom featured in yet another Dodge Charger Hellcat Red Eye. And after talking about all these cars, it's definitely safe to say that Vin Diesel has had the honor of driving around some of the most iconic muscle cars ever produced. But my favorite car from this whole franchise is still that mid-engine swap 1968 Dodge Charger, as it looks so nice and it's just so unique to itself. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content like this. And also let me know which one of these cars is your favorite in the comment section below.